Hey, Melissa here. As you may know, I live in Costa Rica in the jungle, and power outages here are quite common. Like the power often just glitches and it'll come right back on and glitches the Wi-Fi, and sometimes it goes out for an hour, sometimes longer. But this time, the power has been out for 20 hours and counting. There was a storm that came through yesterday, crazy winds, and the power went out late afternoon, and it's now midday the next day and it's still out. And my husband and I took a ride into town and just to see what's going on, and there was definitely, we saw some really massive trees that have fallen over through, like that are kind of on a hill through a mudslide and fell on power lines. So it's this town powers out, the next town, the town beyond, like the whole area. And so everyone that lives here who works remotely and needs their coffee fix and all of that, we're at all the spots, the swanky hotels in town that have generators, and we got to enjoy a nice little acai bowl, my husband and I, and just charge up our phones and head back up on the mountain where we live. So anyway, with that, you know, jungle living already in and of itself is different than living in the city. In the city, you have so much activities that you could do. There's lots of distractions. Everything is instant. You have a choice of everything. And when you move to the jungle, there's definitely a transition period where there's less stimulation. There's still stimulation here, but it's a lot less. You know, we have the ocean, which I could hear in the background. I'm like way up on the mountain right now, but you can hear it. The tide has been pretty intense, like the swell. But you know, you don't have movie theaters here where you live, or tons of different restaurants and, you know, all those things, all those activities that you could do. Like there's not like concerts. There's some people who are artists and do live shows and things like that, but especially where we live, there's no nightlife. The town shuts down by 9 p.m. latest, and people are up like 5 in the morning surfing, doing yoga, very active, very health conscious generally, this town where we live in Costa Rica. So there's that, and now it's rainy season, so there's a lot less people here, less amount of tourists, and there's the locals that are here, and of course the expats that live here all year round, but a lot of the part-time expats and tourists are back where they are from. And so it gets even quieter and there's even less stimulation, and it really asks you to go inward even more. And then you add on the layer of a power outage and no Wi-Fi for 20 hours and counting and beyond. And it's like, what do you do? You know, you're forced to be with yourself. I mean, you could read, you could, if you have anything downloaded on your phone, you can do that, but eventually your phone dies. And if you don't have anywhere to charge it, and you can play games, like my husband and I played some cards last night. But I really have been on this journey this last little while of practicing just being. Just being with myself with no distraction. Like literally just sitting there and maybe looking at a tree and looking at the leaf and just listening to my surroundings, listening to nature, just observing nature. And I remember a time not that long ago where I was very active, always doing something, where that was challenging to just sit and just no phone, no music, no podcast, no book, literally just sitting there. And so I've been taking this on more and more, especially as I've mentioned in previous video how I've drastically changed my eating to mostly raw, I would say high raw fruit based. There is a lot of letting go. Things get really raw. You got to feel your addictions and attachments, emotional attachments to things. So I've been learning to sit a lot more. And so yesterday was Sunday when the power went out. And I've been doing this thing I called it liquid only Sundays, where I just have juice only or coconut water or water. But I honestly don't even drink much water anymore because I basically eat my water from fruits, or I drink pure coconut water because we have obviously abundance of that here. And so I just started picking up this habit of mine of liquid only Sundays again recently. I used to do it last year, and then I lost my way as I've had an intense beginning of the year, and emotions were high, and I lost some of my practices. And I was offering myself grace, but I'm back on it. And so just getting back into it, developing a new habit, there were definitely moments where I was like, oh, I can feel the old patterns, like, there's certain times when I would normally eat, the hunger pain, the signals coming through, like, feed me, it's time to eat, because it's been a habit and a pattern, and the body remembers. And I'm going uphill now, so that's why I'm a little out of breath. But then I would just pause, sit with the discomfort, come back to my why. For me, my why is I know how amazing I feel after I do a liquid only Sunday, and the next morning I feel even better. It's just like a rest for my digestive system, and it also helps to clear my mind, and it helps me sit with discomfort, and just expanding my capacity to even hold discomfort in my body and my being. So it's like an added on layer to this piece of me just learning how to sit and be with myself. Now add on, creating the situation where I would be met with even more discomfort of like going against a previous habit. And so the eating time would come, I sit with the discomfort, maybe 15, 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, especially if my husband is eating and I'm like, oh, it smells so good, or I'm making him a side or something, or making him something. I'm like, okay, like these are just emotional attachments. And I'm not even actually hungry. It's literally just a memory, because the next morning when I wake up after the liquid only Sundays, I am not hungry at all. I feel so good. And so that's why I really do feel like we overeat as a species. And so anyway, as I'm doing this liquid only Sunday, the day is going on, and I could feel the old stuff coming up, wanting to like eat, and then it goes away. And I'm like, okay, I'm actually feeling really great. And then you kind of get this high, and then the power goes out, and now you're kind of bored. And now you're sitting there and you're like, how long is the storm going to be? How long is the power going to be off? Sun sets, it's now dark, husband is making his dinner, and I'm smelling all the things, and I'm kind of, out of boredom. Like, how often do we go and reach for something when we're just bored? Whether it's to eat something or scroll or read something, just doing anything to distract ourselves from ourselves. And so I'm like, okay, I just literally have to be with it. Like, this is what I'm desiring and wanting to learn how to become more masterful in, and the universe provides. It's like, okay, here we are. No power, no Wi-Fi, you're doing your liquid only Sunday, just be. Like, you literally can't distract yourself with anything else. And my husband's like buried in his book after dinner, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna light a candle and I'm gonna look at the flame. And I just did that, and I just was on the couch and I just was looking at the flickering candle. And at first, like, my mind was going like jumping all around and couldn't really be still. And it's just a little technique that I've just started doing, I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago. No one told me to do this. I literally just was like, I started doing it and it helped. It was just counting. I would like do these little challenges for myself. I look at it as like a little tool, a little technique. And I would just see, I'm going to count to 100 without losing track of my count. So I'm staring at the flame, the flickering flame, and I'm just counting to 100. And if I like go off track and I forget that I'm counting, I'm like, whoa, how did I get to this number? Because if I wasn't paying attention, I would stop and start all over again. And then once I did that a couple rounds of 100, my mind started to calm down and come a little more inward and become a little more single pointed. And then it starts to shift, like your nervous system starts to slow down. You start to realize, okay, I feel safe here, like this is okay. And it's like we're training our concentration, our single pointedness, especially in a world today where we're looking for quick fixes, or we're bombarded by quick fixes, like through Instagram Reels, or if you're on, I'm not on TikTok, but I imagine like TikTok, I've seen people like transfer videos from TikTok over to Instagram, and it's like these like short blasts, and people's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, and ours too, just by the society that we live in. So I was like, wow, like the first few rounds of counting to 100, I was like, it was challenging. And then it got easier the more I practiced it. And then I left the living room. I was like, you know what? I want to go to my little altar in my own room, the bedroom there, and opened the window and just heard the rain falling. And I lit the candle there and sat on my mat, sat on a block, and I just made it nice. And I had a blanket, and I just, lit some incense. I like Palo Santos, and I just watched the candle, watch the flame flicker. And it's like you start to, over time, I start to slow down the breath, and it becomes like it's its own practice. And you start to become absorbed into the flame, and you start to like merge with it and take on the qualities of the flame. And I was just playing around with it, and I brought it into my heart, and it was beautiful. And you can always find the silver linings in any situation, and that's what it's been for this 20 hours and counting of no power, no Wi-Fi, is I get to watch all of the ways that I want to distract myself away from myself. And we'll see how long this goes. It's always interesting. Like it's a different life. And we've been living here. I've been coming here for about 11, 12 years, and living here since 2020 was the push to leave Canada. And still, like when it happens, you're like, oh yeah, okay, like, do we have water jugs? Do we have enough? I'm like, we should fill up our gas tank just in case. Like I go into like survival apocalypse mode, and get some ice in case the fridge is out for even longer, and we got to put our freezer stuff in the cooler. And so, yeah, just things that you don't normally have to really worry about or think about in North America. The system here is a lot more fragile, like the electric system, and sometimes the water just shuts off. So yeah, you're definitely more immersed in the elements and more immersed in nature, and just sometimes you get that reality check of like, whoa, what would it be like to live off the land? Like, I mean, so we're so far removed from it, and ourselves included. Like, we still obviously have power, Wi-Fi, we have running water, we have shelter, we have air conditioning. We have that modern life in the jungle, in terms of our home and the eases and the conveniences. But can you imagine not having any of that? Like it's pretty wild. So hopefully the power comes back on at some point soon. And I just felt inspired to share that, and that piece of practicing just being fully present with yourself, and not like just noticing how many times, and it's not to judge yourself or be harsh on yourself. It's just how often we just can't just sit there and be and just breathe and like be with whatever we're feeling, be with the discomfort. And that's why I love doing the liquid only Sundays, because it puts me in this situation. I'm actively, willingly putting myself in the situation of having moments of discomfort throughout the day to practice just being like, oh, okay, I feel a hunger pain. Am I actually hungry? Am I bored? What feeling do I want to mask by wanting to put something in my mouth? Like, and then over time, over the practice, your capacity to hold that discomfort gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And yeah, we remember more and more of our true essence. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and it's not always comfortable, but that's why I like to put myself in these kinds of situations, like juice feasting or doing little fasts, to remind myself, to catch the automatic programming that we slip back into from life. So I love having that weekly reminder put in. All right, that is all for today. Sending you big love and big hugs if you're open to receive that.